Hey everyone, this is Sergeant Dangercow and welcome to episode 12 of Chewing the Cud. Thanks for joining me. Before I go on, I'd just like to really thank everyone who commented both in the video comments and also on Reddit after WDA Punisher posted episode 11 on Reddit, unbeknownst to me. It really seems that my PTFO initiative has struck a small chord within the community. So I've decided in this episode to address some of the comments and also air and discuss some of the ideas born out of it. I'll attempt to credit individuals for suggestions where possible, because I think that's obviously right and fair. So let's look at the first thing, the actual size of the sphere of influence, or SOI. Now this was raised by a few people, so I can't be specific about credits. Firstly, I think it's important to note that I didn't actually specify a size in my video precisely because I was unsure as to what the community would think, and I wanted to see what reaction it garnered. It seems people are, to a varying degree, concerned about two things: exclusion of those on the periphery of the objective but still fighting for it, and that people would all crowd round the objective to get the largest multiplier. Addressing the latter first, I think it unlikely that people will profit disproportionately like this for two reasons. The first is it would be reasonably difficult to get close to lob a grenade with any accuracy before being shot. The second is that even with an LVG or an M320, the same problem arises as the first. And the third actually makes all of those arguments pretty much redundant. Whilst in Rush you may have a point, there is already a propensity for people to gather round the MCOM, so you aren't necessarily creating an artificial situation per se, or a situation that doesn't already exist. And with Conquest, there are generally many flags to take, so it's not likely you will benefit from a mass kill in the zones. As an added part of this, one could remove the sphere of influence completely if all flags are taken by one team, so as not to create a spawn killing mass bonus effect, which you might get in Metro or whatever. Tying in with the former, the size of the SOI, I think this can both be variable and non-conformist. For example, one point raised by Reddit's Michael J. Foe was that maps like Locker and Metro, or even domination maps as a whole, would always raise the most points by the nature of the map design. And now this is an interesting point and one worth considering with how the SOIs would work. My feeling is that on close maps, the SOI could be greatly reduced, or maybe have just one small area around the flags to push people onto the next one. Bear in mind that also that the actual square footage of each concentric circle doesn't have to be the same. For example, the outer ring could be much bigger from one edge to the other than disproportionately much bigger than the others, to the inner ring and so on and so forth. This is not a fixed diameter. This takes me on to the point raised by several people, all saying it's not fair that as a sniper covering, for example, the MCOM, that you don't get points. The question of snipers is, at best, contentious and at worst, vitriolic. I know this because I used to be a dedicated sniper in Bad Company 2, don't go into it, and got a lot of crap for it. That being said, I do recognise the need to proportionally reward snipers. Therefore, I would think something like receiving half the bonus if outside the SOIs on a kill inside the inner two circles of the SOI might be doable. I mean, after all, though, is someone who is on Noob Mountain with no MAV in Firestorm really playing the objective? And whilst you may argue that a decent sniper in that position will spot, as a holistic view, it's most unlikely that the player they spot hasn't already been spotted by others closer in on the target. One thing that I thought could be introduced is a waterfall bonus achieved by having someone that used a spawn beacon going on to make kills. A bit like PlanetSide, when pilots get a percentage of the points garnered by those who drop from their ship. The same thing could be introduced here. I'll get onto it later. Countering this is the question of spotting, lasering, and so on. So I think maybe a good idea is to say that any vehicles, targets destroyed could receive a bonus in relation to where the vehicle was initially spotted. Maybe I haven't really had time to think that one through, and I know this is a contentious subject, so maybe the snipers out there could find a constructive way this could be tweaked. Maybe a super bonus for every third vehicle destroyed when you've lasered it or something. I don't know, something like that. I'm aware, of course, that the overriding concern here is that one could be playing the objective whilst not actually near it. This does raise the question of vehicles. The misuse of vehicles in BF is one of my and many others' major annoyances. People taking venoms just to reach high buildings and then bailing and killing everyone on board. This is a lot trickier. And to be honest, I need more time to think about this one. Most immediately, I thought there was an idea maybe for bonuses to be attributed to support action. If squad leaders or commanders could request air support or armour over in a region, then it creates a sphere of influence for the vehicle, and perhaps squad leaders could just point at a flag and have armour support or request air support in the comma rows, and that would create a bonus situation for vehicles. It's kind of really an off-the-cuff thought, but let me know in the comments below. But again, this will come down to the waterfall thing I'll talk about at the end. Now, moving on, the question of level caps and XP is very relevant to this whole proposal. After all, it's actually pretty simple to rank up. Vern Dog said in Reddit, once people get the weapons they want, they'll just camp. He also queries whether people should be rewarded for something they should be doing anyway. And whilst I agree that they should be doing it anyway, the simple fact is that the vast majority of people simply don't. You can't beat PTFOing into people, but you can encourage them by reward. More flies with honey than vinegar, as they say. But his question over XP got me thinking. So I wondered if we could either only make certain guns available at rank, which seems a little unbalanced for newcomers, or whether you could buy guns based purely on XP, with an exponential value the higher up you go in terms of the weapons. So you'd have to spend around 300,000 XP to get a gold, or 250,000 XP for a FAMAS, for example. Before you go off on that's too high or low for a gold or whatever, please remember the figure and the weapon are purely arbitrary examples. If you influence what people can use in the game by XP costing it, I reckon that will help encourage people to maximise PTFOing if PTFOing represents the most expedient way to get XP. Also, a good suggestion came from Devokes. I'm not really sure how I'm saying his name right or not, but he was on Reddit, suggesting including zones in addition to or instead of SOIs. Now, this would be quite interesting because, as Devokes pointed out, we can cut off approaches and so on that may not necessarily be within the SOIs. Creating zones or hotspots could mean that objective gameplay is not limited to immediately around the objective, can still be rewarded. Holding a strategic point is of use and so should be rewarded. My only small reservation would be that some maps like Locker and so on might end up having choke points rewarded, so the zones would have to be judiciously applied. For me, one of the best suggestions to the Reddit thread came from Graphic J, who suggested that SOI be limited to the squad leader. If you are with the squad leader, then you get the bonuses. If not, you don't. It's a fairly simple way of encouraging squad leaders to lead and squad members to follow. So for me, this would work really well if DICE also incorporated the ability to vote out your SL. With regards to planes and vehicles, the commander could set a general area of operation in which the planes and vehicles will get a bonus multiplier for 50%, or they can listen for any squad leaders' requests for a support on a flag and receive, a 25% bonus for attacking within that flag's sphere. The waterfall system, which I mentioned, that I think could be usefully employed, is based on the planet-side system, whereby pilots got a small bonus for every troop action that had used their aircraft to travel in. Essentially, in my version, a player who supports his team through an action, such as repairing a vehicle, would benefit from a non-deductive share in any points garnered by that vehicle until it is destroyed or next repaired. I don't know whether or not that should be split amongst multiple repairers who repair it at the same time, because it would have to be careful not to abuse the system, but I think that's something worth thinking about. That system could also be extended to medics, receiving a small non-deductive percentage of any points earned by a player they revive until that player dies or is next revived, not healed, but revived. And a similar system could apply to spawn beacons, whereby a sniper will receive a small percent for any major points. And by major points I mean kills, vehicles destroyed, MCOMs armed, flags capped, etc., earned by someone using their spawn beacon. I should explain that non-deductive means that the player earning the points will still receive 100 points for a kill, but the reviver would get, say, 5 points as a 5% bonus. This system and the squad influence sphere system could prove to be very influential in encouraging people to PTFO. Furthermore, an additional but smaller multiplier for obeying commanders would, I think, really push things in the right direction. Now, I realise this is unfair for teams without a commander, but if you have an idea how to balance this, let me know in the comments below. Again, this is just very embryonic stages. To further encourage the SL to actually lead and set objectives, the SL could receive a small percentage of any of his squad's major points as well. This is all teamwork based stuff, so I think if someone has an interest in doing teamwork by receiving points as a backhander, then that might be more of an incentive to work as a team as well as working an objective. In conclusion, I think that SOIs being attached to the squad leader and becoming squad influence spheres, along with the waterfall bonus, is a very positive evolution of the concept thus far. Well, that's it for me this week. I look forward to seeing what interest this gets with DICE as well as on the community level, so please do like, share and comment constructively, as it does help me bring this PTFO initiative on. Until then, I'll see you on the battlefield. Ta-ta.